So then from your perspective, Dale, give us some of that on like what are the things that contribute based on the work that you've done over the last 4 years with individuals who are early in recovery, and then you've seen some people kind of transition into that like lifelong journey. What are some of your perspectives of how they got where they're at?
Yeah, just listening to you, a lot of things brought up in my own life, and so everybody, in this specific instance, we're talking about substance use disorder.
Right.
I knew early on what veterans were going through, right? So in their case, it's isolation, it's lack of being a part of the unit that they were on a high stakes game of. So high stress, high adrenaline, and then all of a sudden that's gone. And so they return back home, they're isolated, they're alone, and that's why at the time veteran suicide was so high. It wasn't necessarily from the traumatic experiences, because obviously there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
It was the lack of connection and community. So I was exposed to that, experienced that personally and from my friends back in 2007. And then fast forward 10 years later, it's like, oh, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
Now you're just throwing a chemical substance on top of it and really accelerating the fire.
Yeah.
So
I like that analogy, like an accelerant to the problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like a house fire would be a problem. If you came in and sprayed gas on it instead of water, it'd be a bigger problem.
Accelerates faster.
It'd be a bigger
but
problem.
the root, like striking that match, was the root cause.
Same thing.
I got you.
So that's why I believe I was able to relate a lot to folks, because they were just like, sit down and have a conversation with them. And, there's one guy just started working for me, didn't say like 2 words for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he goes, hey, man, just want to say thank you. You're the only person who's ever given me a second chance in my life.
Damn.
I was like, oh, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, no problem. And he just went on to explain, as a kid, his mom chained him up in a basement and sexually abused him and filmed him. And then luckily she was found out, and then from there he get in foster care. What happened in foster care? Same thing happened. So this poor kid had every strike against him, and then it seeks a substance to make him feel better in a way. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Well, then drug habit kicks off, multiple arrests, and then 2 years ago his kid dies in a car wreck. And it's just like, bro, you've had a rough ride, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, you're well deserving of a second chance. And I'm fortunate enough to hear those stories and see that every day. Unfortunately, that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
Another guy who works for me. He's like, hey man, I got kicked out of school, and my mom had to say that she was going to homeschool me.
Yeah.
That night we smoked meth together at 15. Next week later, she taught me how to make meth. So a little wrong kind of homeschool chemistry class that she was doing.
Yeah, we were teaching something, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, this is what these people were experiencing and going through.
And that's that like generational poverty, generational drug abuse, generational just like survival. Just like, yes, like traumatic experiences created for people when people are just trying to survive and not be miserable, right, while they're here.
Yeah, and so if we can, have an opportunity to try to hear somebody's story and understand where they're at, and then give them the help that they need, but they've got to be willing to seek it.
Sure.
It's got to be a two-way street, and that we can help, eventually solve the problem going through that.
Well, I always love that too. Like a lot of the stuff that I've gotten to see you like work with people on is like, hey, like dude, I'm not like the second chance, for example, or like the job or the opportunity. It's like, I'm not giving you this for free.
Right.
I'm presenting this to you to be able to prove that you can handle it, not only to me, but to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I'm a big proponent of like, hey, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? And that's kind of gotten a bad knock here like lately. What I realized is like, we need to make sure everybody gets their boots on.
Yeah, and that's why it gets a bad knock, is because it assumes that people have boots.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like we can do things to support you being able to,
So I just look at it like my job is to provide you with the boots, but you got to tie them sons of bitches. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
And you got to earn it. But we just need to be in a position that everybody kind of gets off on an equal footing. And then like that light switch will go off, and then they start earning, they feel better, they discover their capability, it builds their confidence, and then it goes on
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah. You gonna chime in?
I like what I want to piggyback off what you said about kind of getting like addicted to that intensity and that like baseline of just that way you feel. It doesn't always have to, it's mostly like a negative thing. So when you get sober and you don't no longer have that chemical, you're missing that intensity.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And you're looking for other ways to create it around you, whether it's like, with the opposite sex or with it's like gambling, whatever it is, like you miss that intensity. So I think a big part of it, because the thread line was community and connection.
Yeah.
So like, I remember when I was getting off the chemical at first it was like I need to learn how to be okay with myself, and things that helped with that were like community, letting other people love me until I loved myself. So it's like, I don't know what to do, but I'm just going to show up and just stand here. Like I didn't know how to stand with guys like you before when I got sober. I would just
what to do with my hands.
I'd just be like this the whole time. And I would go into meetings and I would run off to the bathroom I would hide because I was ashamed of how I was living, So starting to do things that are building like self-esteem, just little things. That's why like being of service really early on can be one of those proponents of getting the boots on. Yep. Like if my boots are not really strapped up yet, just being of service, how can I help? Oh, okay, can I hold the door for you? Can I greet people when they walk in? Those are like
coffee.
Yeah, that's slowly that work that's like building self-esteem and getting me comfortable with just being myself and like feeling worthy. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, man, because I just had terrible low self-worth.
Yep.
I would use chemicals to comfort it, and then once that Band-Aid was ripped away, now I'm just left with that wound and hadn't done no work. So from all the geographical changes I made, to all the treatment centers I went to all the different therapy modalities I tried, none of it worked until I started to do the work, And then once that happened, then everything becomes a teacher. Then it's like, this guy can help me, this group can help me, working out and getting my serotonin and dopamine levels higher can help me, getting creative, like all these things become like actually possible. But I think it starts with community and letting other people love you, show you love until you can learn to love yourself.
Yeah. Well, a place that you can go safe and be accepted, right?
Yeah.
So I always think that people start or continue using for two reasons. We're either trying to, number one, create a feeling, right, out of boredom or whatever, absence of the brain chemicals that do that for me or whatever. I'm trying to create a feeling, or I'm trying to mute or turn down or stop a feeling, right? And so that's kind of a broad highway, but like to me, it's the two things kind of like that get people started and then continue people to using, right? Then the things that are like that are the environmental factors that contribute to that. We talk a lot about diseases of isolation, diseases of despair, and how those sort of affect an area that is historically impoverished with high crime rates and low opportunities and those kind of things, right? Which then takes apart it's sort of a threadbare community at that point, because there's not a lot of, it's like trying to like fasten something to the wall, but there's no wall there. It's like you can't really make that work. You got to kind of build the structure first before we can start decorating the things. You know what I mean? Yeah, you were going to say something?
I was just thinking what you just said about trying to turn it on or trying to turn it off, create a feeling or shut it off or mute it. They go hand in hand, because I think at first for me, I was trying to turn something on and like create this feeling of like, relief or different, like whatever it was. And then, once I became dependent on that and then trying to get off of it, then it was just all about trying to shut the noise off. Sure. Like whatever I could do to shut that noise off, I would do. And it was rough, man. Like I really, through my whole journey of getting sober, I always had some sort of chemical that I was rearranging to numb that feeling out. Yeah. Like not until
the algorithm. Figure out how to use successfully.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I don't know, it's just thinking back, like all the attempts at sobriety there was always something in the mix. I would have this like false honesty. I'd be like, I'm doing really well, but I'm also like using this thing to like numb it out. And until I got like completely honest with myself and honest with other people, that's like the first time I was able to actually move forward. Yeah.
I think to piggyback off that, one of the best things I ever heard in relation to PTSD was like a friend was struggling. He thought he was struggling with PTSD as soon as he got out, and he was an operator at a very high level. And it wasn't until there was an apartment fire across the street, and then he just started running in and trying to help as many people as possible. Wow. And when he got done, he felt normal. And then he realized it's not I'm not suffering from stress. I'm suffering from a lack of stress. Mm-hmm. So if you can pivot that and find that avenue to where you can unleash that creativity, all your tools and skills and gifts that you've been given, that's where you can really use that fuel for good.
Yeah, it's about finding the purpose, right?
Yeah, it gives you a sense of purpose.
Yeah, purpose piece, right?
And that's why I think doing hard things and having like a sense of fulfillment from that is crucial. It's whether it's in early recovery or not in recovery, it's just about like hard tasks, getting those done, and then feeling good about what you've done and being like, oh, I have a sense of purpose now. It's huge.
And that's one of the, you talk about like a cornerstone of the partnership between PSKC and the counseling center is like, that's literally 5 days a week in 4 different time slots and 2 different locations. Yeah. All we want you to do is something hard and finish it. And to then build up your confidence that I can do hard stuff, right? Talk a little bit about that partnership and how that's gotten rolling and some of the stuff that you've gotten to see happen through that.
Yeah, right from the rip, I knew we wanted to interject Pillosophy, if you will.
Yeah, our Pillosophy was going to be
into the workouts.
Yep.
And essentially, the speech is like, hey, this is going to take 15 minutes, could take 40 minutes, whatever. All we are attempting to do is train you to not quit. I don't care when you get it done. I don't care how long it takes you. But this physiological expression that you're about to go through is a means to enhance your personal philosophy.
Yeah.
And all that is no matter what happens, I will not quit.
Just don't. I know I always tell people, just don't leave the gym. If you have to take a round off, if you have to take an extra break, if you have to go chug a bottle of water, if you have to go outside and throw up, just don't, not on my car. You know what I mean? I got close one day with a little sprint workout on the back there. It's like on the back side, on the other side, but it's like, just don't leave the gym. Just stay here with the team, right?
Because in the day, he who is best trained will win. And all this is a training session, and you're going to think it sucks, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, and at the end of it, and all of a sudden it's the end, and you're like, oh man, I feel amazing.
So great. Well, and so then you're talking about accomplishing what is hard, and how that builds up personal equity and what your belief system is in yourself, right? Yeah. But then talk about the community piece of that, about how CrossFit is delivered in a group setting and why.
Yeah, because it's the easiest thing to do is quit on yourself.
If there's a 5-round workout and I'm doing it at home, I'm liable to only do 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good enough.
And be like, check the box, we're out of here. You know what I mean?
But, you have an instructor, a coach there. Yep. So, you have an authority figure there. That's their job is to push you, but then also kind of pull you when it's needed. And then you get yourself in an environment, and Greg Glassman always say, men and women will die for points. And they see that if you're busting your butt and you're busting your butt, I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. Sure. I'm going to try to keep up and elevate the environment along with it. So it's important. That's why you can't just plug your headphones in and then go to a gym and try to. That's better than nothing. Don't get me wrong. Sure. But if you're going to be in an environment of 5 to 12 people, everybody brings the juice, brings the energy, and you suffer together. Yep. And not only do you suffer together, but you celebrate together at the end.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's do what's hard. That's a good lesson for sustaining sobriety. I always say worst is first. You know what I mean? Whatever the thing is that I got to do that I'm not looking forward to, I'm going to try to knock it out at 9 a.m. bright and early in the morning, freshly caffeinated. You know what I mean? Shout out to Coffee at the Loft. I hope you see this. But it's worst is first, right? So the other part of that, and I'd like to hear your perspective, the group setting creates accountability for what I'm actually doing in my own life. Yep. How does accountability play a role in sobriety and maintaining myself as a person in long-term recovery?
Yeah. Well, even when you were talking, I was drawing parallels and similarities to early recovery of going to a group. For me, I did men's meetings because I tried all the mixed meetings, and I was going for girls.
And I love her.
I was getting all dressed up and going to a meeting at night, and I'm like, this is an event. And
I got my Thick Boy Superflex shirt on.
Yeah, wearing all my nicest gear to the 7 p.m. meeting. And there's like 10 people there, and I'm like,
I got to go to another one.
I gotta hit the 9 right after. But I started going to these men's meetings where it was like solid group of men who were just like these kind of old school, like harder group of guys.
Sure.
And there was this guy in there named Ted. He was like this old dude from Texas, and he would kind of slap you around. Be like,
Texas Ted,
really? That's what they called him. Yeah. And he'd be like, get your butt in that seat and just shut up and listen. Like that. I really needed. I really needed that. I needed that like hardcore accountability. Like shut up, suit up, show up.
Yeah.
But once you get into a group setting, if you're missing from that group, they're like, where are you? You know what I'm saying? Like you're creating accountability just by being in it, just by voicing things, whether you're struggling with or it's like a goal you want to achieve.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, next week I'm going to do this thing. Now you just put that into the universe and 10 people are holding you accountable. So you're not only letting yourself down, now you're going to feel guilty if you didn't show up and reach it. So yeah, especially early on, I think the biggest thing is accountability. I don't like to let people down. I'm a person that needs those pat on the backs and attaboys, and I love that. So like, if I get to show up and feel useful for people, it's everything for me. Especially, for me, getting into drugs and alcohol and getting those highs, back to the intensity, like I needed the extreme highs. I would also have the very, very low lows.
Yeah.
But being able to get right sized, meet in the middle, and just be of service, I think is the humility piece that is more sustainable. So it's like, I don't need the praise, but I also don't care about the hate or whatever. It's just about getting out of my own way and being of service.
Yeah. Talk about the phenomenon with like the group accountability thing. We get the phenomenon that's like, hey, in this house, we work out.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, so community breeds accountability.
Sure.
And like you were saying, so the way the structure is, each transitional living home kind of has their own clique and vibe, but it's only for a certain period of time. As people are coming in and people are going out. But, you get one house, it's like, hey, homie, this house does the 10 a.m. CrossFit class.
10 a.m. hitters,
Nah,
baby.
man, that's not for me. No. You didn't hear my first part. Right? This house does the 10 a.m. CrossFit. Like, he might be bullheaded, might not do it for a week or two, but then, he's going to relent, shows up, and then he does the 10 a.m. Like, this house does the 10 a.m. CrossFit.
And then, like, some of those guys, dude, it's amazing how, like, when people tap into, like, that belief in themselves. So, like, not only, because, a drug addict that comes in, to stay clean for like a day or multiple days in a row seems like just a miracle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like so it's like we string together some like clean time, right? Well, then maybe like I start working out. Well, then maybe we get the job or the first opportunity, get a little money coming in, right? Get that opportunity back. Then like this wild thing starts happening where people really start to find out like how efficient they can be and how like capable they are, and like the wild stuff is like you got to like packing food, counting macros, like training outside of CrossFit for like strength or conditioning because they got other stuff they want to do too. Getting 6 packs, saw a first muscle up today, and then after the first one, the dude did 4 more. You know what I mean? And it's just like wild stuff to see. Is like that process of people becoming addicted from a lack of belief in themselves, a lack of community support, maybe like not seeking help because of community stigma or prejudice or whatever might exist, right? To then come from that place of like hopelessness and despair, right? To then like literally people crushing it. You know what I mean? That's the wild part to see, and you've gotten to see a lot of that.
Yeah. It's amazing. I had a conversation I was at the one of the CrossFit semifinals events last weekend.
That's one of his jobs. That's one of his other jobs. Yeah.
And
one of his other jobs.
And we were talking, and this lady's like, what is it like?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it's just so cool. And I was like, well.
They said, well, lady, you're not wrong.
It was like, well,
you're not wrong.
Yeah, it's cool. It is cool. And then I just told her about, those 2 stories that I said earlier.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like, I get to go into work and not have a doubt on if I die tomorrow, somebody's going to miss me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Somebody's going to feel better that I lived here for a certain period of time and help somebody out.
Yeah. And that's that purpose thing you're talking about with your other dude, man. Like, you found that now.
I found that purpose, and I feel like clearly I'm a part of a unit on a very specific mission.
Yeah.
And we just surrounded by very rad people who, and it's not just the people in recovery, right? So it's the enablers along with us that are along for the ride to make this mission happen. And they're fired up too, because they see that immense gratitude and love, really.
Yeah.
And just to be a part of that, it's like I could not work anywhere else.
Right.
It's like everybody's, oh, it's Monday.
Yo, dude, I can't wait. My favorite day of the week, dog.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I wake up like a kid on Christmas morning, Monday
I
morning.
hate coming in here to this $90,000 a year job.
No.
Coffee sucks. It's like
It's not even
the law.
Yeah, it's not coffee at the law. So I hope you see this, Terry.
But yeah, man, it's I'm very blessed.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man.
And you are that, right? Like you, and this is like from your personal story. I know, like, and I shared with you the last time we were talking. I've gone from like getting like songs in my like Dropbox or via text of like some stuff you cut on like the 09 MacBook, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or on your phone, right? To like, I'm searching for my boy on iTunes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you have gone from like a kid in Franklin Furnace that was destined to be another statistic, right? To then like now like you've got some things that are going on from LA to Philly to Boney, Philly. That was a Tim Wolf one. That was a Tim Wolf one. Boney, Philly. Yeah. It's the other Philadelphia. You know what I mean?
The other Philadelphia.
Yeah, dude, but talk about what that like process has been like for you. Like I always tell people when they're first getting clean and sober, I always like I try to impress upon people is like you think you know what you want to happen in your life, but you have no clue how good your life can be. Like whatever you think is as best as it can be right now, it's tenfold to that.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about what that's been like for you.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was focused on a lot of like early recovery stuff, but past that, life got great. Life got amazing and big. And they say you can live a life on your wildest dreams, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I think about that now, it's like the perspective is like so much, I don't know, it's just different. Like I think what that means is not the big car and the house and it's like you're able to show up for your friends, you're able to be there for your family. When I was getting sober, I wasn't, you know, my daughter's mom had me blocked on Facebook and everything. I was a junkie. My family had me cut off. So like really I went out to treatment with flip-flops, not even boots yet, and a freaking backpack. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm cut off from everyone. I'm at this like point of desperation and despair. But then, you know, once I made it through and actually got another chance at life, like life has gotten amazing. And, dude, I'm fired up all the time. Like I just feel like I feel like literally. There's no ceilings. It's just like limitless. Like for me, I feel like getting through those hard times, and I love the comparisons between the gym, because really if you learn how to do hard things, like they transfer over into your life. Even if you sit in a sauna for like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and you like have the mental fortitude to stick through that, then like when there's a goal, you're not going to stop until you reach that goal. And you're going to learn how to problem solve along the way. Something that getting sober taught me was how to take L's, how to take losses, and just be like, okay, cool, I learned from that. I'm not stopping until I reach that goal. So really just getting out of my own way allowed me to, I always take it to like, God, you know, blessed me with like certain talents and things. I always want to control them and make them appear a certain way and whatever and get the coolness and like everything from it. That's all bullshit. That's all short term. That only lasts for a very short amount of time, and then you're alone again and dealing with that isolation we're talking about. So like the true way is like really getting out of your own way and allowing those things to shine through. And then from that, really cool stuff starts to happen. And yeah, man, I just got through a bunch of fears. Like I used to live in fear, and I did a lot of work on why I'm in fear all the time. And then after getting through all those, now I'm able to like just do things without fear and be like, I want to make this song and put it out. I'm going to do it. People might say, oh, that's weird or whatever, like cringy. I don't care. I'm just going to still do it. And then I'm going to do the next thing. And then that's going to happen for a day. And people are going to say, oh, good job. And I'm going to go, cool, next thing. Like people are going to say, what? Like, I don't get it. And I'm going to say, I don't care. Next. It's all about just like this like piece of like personal sovereignty, and then getting out of your own way to give stuff to other people, because the only reason that I make music is when those kids message me and they say, I heard this song and it like really helped me. Like it really changed my life. Like that's what does something for me. And, you know, yeah, man, it's just about getting out of your own way and being able to like really live your dreams. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, of course.
Of course.
And then, I guess the thing to sort of wrap it up, you guys have both been in and around the recovery community now for a little while. So somebody that's maybe thinks they need to make a change in that regard, maybe come over to the other side of the fence, or somebody who's maybe just started that journey, right? What's some advice you would give somebody on how to sustain themselves to stay on the right side of the tracks throughout this whole thing and not go back to their old lifestyle?
I would just say, you're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to.
Yeah.
That's
a very human experience.
That's
huh?
okay.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to struggle. You're not alone in your struggle.
Yeah.
Right. So reach out, but be selective in who you reach out to, because odds are if you're struggling along with somebody, that's not the person that's going to pull you out.
Right.
So find the right person to reach out to. Just admit that you can't do this alone, and find help. And what you're going through is a short period of thing in your life.
You talk about those those cognitive distortions with substance use disorder folks, and it's so deep. But drug addicts are one of the only populations that while they're in that space of man, this is really hard. It's well, we could do these things to help you, and it's well, no, I don't need any help. I could do this by myself. If I have a hard thing I need to do, the last thing I want to do is do it by myself at this point in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's great advice. It's there are numerous things that could happen in a person's existence that they would not want to go through alone. It's okay that this would be one of those things that you would not want to go through alone. And I think important that there are entire communities of people in recovery, but then there are also people who might not identify as being in long-term recovery themselves, like yourself, that are willing to help people out just because, hey, you're supposed to be struggling. That's why you need other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, AP?
I say a similar thing to people I'm working with early on is it's supposed to suck for a little while. I think
I'm gonna steal that one for CrossFit class.
Yeah.
When people are new, tell them it's supposed to suck for a little while.
Because people, sometimes people say, dude, at 30, 60, 90 days, you're going to hit these. Sometimes it sucks for 4 months and 5 months, but if you see it all the way through, things will get better. And someone told me early on, is it one day or is it day one? And that was a cool thing for me to hear. So I think I like what you said about choosing carefully who you don't have to be super vulnerable and honest to everyone, but you got to find one person to open up with.
Yeah.
And one thing I would tell people out there is that people are there to help. So try not to feel like you're a burden for coming up and saying a problem that you have. Especially the people on the other side of that probably want you to do that. They want you to help. They want the opportunity to be of service. So don't rob them of that opportunity.
Yeah.
Tell people your problems, open up to them, and let them help you.
So two things there. The first was the asking people, right?
Yeah.
It's people. Oh, I was gonna call you, but I don't want to bother you. It's no, dude, bother me. I got other stuff going on, but whatever. I need distracted from that my dog needs walked and my pool needs and my car needs oil change. And I don't want to do any of that stuff, dude. I'd much rather ditch any of that, lame adulting stuff.
Yeah.
I just go screw off with you, drink coffee, you tell me about your problems or whatever. And I'll just sit there, you know what I mean? Right. At the lofts, of course. You know what I mean? Gosh, I forget the second thing now. We were talking about needing people. Oh, that it might suck for a little while, right?
Yeah.
So there's this preconceived notion that people with substance use disorders also have. If I could just quit using, my life would just get better.
That's a big one.
And that is true in some regards. I don't want to take away from that because my life has gotten exponentially better since I quit using drugs, right? However, with that being said, is just because you quit using drugs doesn't mean everything's going to 180 about face and change up. You got to put some work in, right? You talked about doing a lot of work within introspective stuff about why am I afraid? Why do I act the way that I do? Why do I live at these extremes, right?
Yeah.
You have to do a lot of work to kind of sort yourself out in your own regard with the guidance of somebody else. To your point, it's none of this is a handout or a social service thing. It's we're just assisting you in obtaining and sustaining an opportunity. But it takes work on the person's behalf. You know what I mean?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. I love that what you said about you'll be gentle with them about how to get the boots on, but then after that, like it's up to them to tie them and like use them.
Start running.
Yeah,
well,
I love that.
Our boy Chase always tells me, because I was talking with him about some kid stuff, and he was like, you got to tell them that if they learn to tie their shoes, that means they can accomplish any other task that comes up in the day. But they can't accomplish any other task in the day until their shoes are tied.
Right.
And I think that's like a recovery analogy, right? It's like, it's limitless. No ceilings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
get your shoes tied.
you got to tie your shoes. You know what I mean?
Player.
I'm not saying that you can't walk without shoes. I'm just saying it'd be a lot easier if you had your shoes on. You know what I mean? Right. Any kind of closing thoughts before we sign off, dude? You guys have been even better than I expected.
Oh man.
I want to say just thank you to both of you guys for everything you do around here. While you guys were talking about all the implementation of CrossFit and everything into early recovery, at the spot I got sober at, we didn't really have that, but we made our own. So I was in there with this dude that was a SEAL, and he like had me on this whole routine. By the end of it, we had 5 guys. We're swimming laps. We get out of the pool and we do crunches. Then we run in the back, and we did a circuit every morning.
Yeah.
And I think that took the recovery process from like 3 months I'd be feeling better to like 30 days I was feeling great. Yeah. So like that's amazing that you guys do that, and just appreciate you guys.
Portsmouth method.
Love it.
Portsmouth method, which will be a whole other podcast or whatever.
Right.
But,
We'll do a follow-up.
What about you, man? Any kind of closing thoughts for us?
I would just say people in my shoes who are fortunate enough not to be suffering from substance use disorder, you can make a choice. You can either be a part of the solution and help it. And I think if you want to be neutral, you're just as bad as not being involved at all.
Well, it's the same thing as the pill mills. It just seems like everybody's okay with it. When you're neutral, it seems like you're okay with the way things are.
I mean, I don't want to be over dramatic about it, but like if World War II is going on, I don't want to be a neutral country.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Pick a side and fight. Right. So we have an obligation to. You brought up when you were saying like, hey, it's nowhere near what you went through in the war.
Right.
It's actually worse. Yeah. There's 107,000 people dying in a year. That's like 10x worse than the global war on terrorism.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to sit back, and I don't think whoever's listening, wants to sit back and be like, oh, I wish I would have done something. Yeah. It doesn't take a lot. It just takes a little.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man. That's deep, huh?
Philosophy, baby.
Philosophy, man. Hey, we'll close on that. We'll close on that one, dude. Some things to think about, man.
Trying to earn my cup.
Hey, it's all yours, actually.
Take it home.
Hey, man, thanks everybody for joining in. Austin, Dale, you guys have been the best. Till the next time, see you guys.